We start seeing participants start coming in.
We should here shortly. Oh, here they
Okay.
come.
Up to 5. It's zooming. You can see I have this terrible view.
I know, God, it's great.
I know. I get accused of having a Zoom background every now and then, but that's the view out my window.
Did you have to fight the sheriff for that office?
We have the same. Our offices are right next to each other.
Oh,
So we
nice.
yeah.
Get
Yeah.
the same view.
If you see him on Zoom, though, his computer is faced differently, so he doesn't have you looking out the window. But our offices are identical.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, his is a little bit bigger, and I say that's because he's a sheriff. It should be a little bit bigger.
Why is that?
He's more important. Yeah, that's what I tell him. It's more important. But it's like half a square foot bigger. It's it's not extraordinarily bigger.
Not extraordinary. Not enough to start a fight.
No.
All right. Good morning. Welcome, attendees. If you're just joining us, we're going to give everybody a couple minutes to get logged on here. All right. Well, it appears we're going to have a lot of people watching the recording, Cory.
It does, doesn't it?
That's all right. We will have this up on our website. Let me give everybody just another minute.
It's that Monday morning getting started.
Right? Unless there's something big going on somewhere that we're not privy to because we're on here.
Right. That's true. Usually if something's happening, I hear about it.
Yeah, you would hear about it. Probably before I would. All right, well, since we will have this recorded on our website, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. My name is Sarah Leonard. I'm the Community Development Director here at the Steamboat Springs Chamber. We are going to be using the Q&A feature today. So if you have questions, go ahead and type those in the Q&A and type those at any point during the presentation, and Cory will go ahead and answer those for you. Also, if you would like to participate in the chat, make sure that you change your chat to all attendees and panelists so everybody can see that. We're very grateful to have Cory Christensen with us this morning. Cory is the Chief of Police here in Steamboat Springs, and he is going to speak with us about de-escalation training. I know it's been kind of a tense year for everybody, so we are very grateful to have Cory with us. Cory, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I appreciate the invite from the chamber to spend some time with you guys today. How this came about is, as I sit on a stakeholder group for COVID, and we're talking about some of the challenges that the businesses are facing with individuals in general, and how do we best de-escalate those contacts. And so I was asked to come in and talk a little bit about that. And you're going to hear me a lot say, at this point, call the police, right? You're going to hear me say that. And the reason I am going to tell you that is, there's a point where it's just time for us. And I don't want you ever to worry about calling the police, if that makes sense. We're here for you. We're here for our community, and let me first just tell you what we're going to do when we show up, and that really is to exercise the rights of the business owner, if that makes sense. In other words, if a person is causing a problem and you want them out of your business, that's what we're going to do. We're going to ask you what you want done, and we're going to follow through with that. So it's really more about what your rights are as either an employee of a business or the owner of a business, a person who's really in charge of a space, if that makes sense. And then there's a variety of things we can do. But I'm here to talk to you a little bit about de-escalation and what that looks like. In police work, we work on this all the time. We deal with de-escalation all the time. And sometimes we do pretty good at it, sometimes we don't. And you're going to be the same way. Sometimes you're going to do really good at it, and sometimes you're not. The key really is understanding what you can and can't do. And the first thing that we talk a lot about is the world right now is really challenging. And I would say it's helpful if you understand that people are challenging, that have challenges, right? Just like you do. I haven't met a single person yet who hasn't been somehow emotionally impacted by COVID at different levels, who isn't facing challenging times. And I know for the business community, this is really challenging times. And we talk a lot here at the Steamboat Springs Police Department about compassion, understanding, respect. And so just remember that when you're dealing with somebody who is having an issue with you or with your business or with what's going on, just remember that if you come from a place of compassion, it'll be helpful. But what's the first thing that's most important in de-escalation is know what you can and cannot do. So, and that varies from business to business, from person to person. As an example, I'll give an example. I come from Fort Collins, which is the world headquarters for OtterBox. And I know many folks who work in the customer service realm of OtterBox. And they have really clear instructions about what they can and can't do, what they should or shouldn't argue about. As an example, if you send them a text of a broken case, they're just going to throw a case in the mail. They're not going to argue with you about it. They're not going to ask how it was broken. They're just going to send you a case. And the employees know what their limits are, know what they can and can't do. And it's the same thing with you when you're dealing with somebody who has an issue going on. And we'll go deeper into some of that, but just know whether or not what you can and can't do. If you can't solve their problem, then that's important information. If you can solve their problem, that's important information too. We talk about this from a law enforcement perspective of, a lot of times we get into conflict with someone who we just know we can't arrest them, right? They haven't committed a crime. It's just a conflict. Well, we teach the officers, understand you can't arrest them, right? So that's power. Knowledge is power. And we'd say, okay, then you have strategies, right? And some of those strategies are, if I cannot help you, or if I cannot do this thing, then I go down a different road about how do I get you out of here, to be honest. How do I stop this conflict? How do we move on? If you can fix something, then figure it out, right? What I will tell you, that if you are in charge of a location, now I know I'm talking mostly to individuals in the business community, You pay rent, you own a building, you own a space, you rent a space, whatever it is, you get to exercise a certain level of control over that space. And frankly, legally, you don't have to put up with a bunch of crap in your space. I'll just tell you that straight up. I will tell you, one of the businesses we work with quite a bit right now is Ace Hardware, and I'm gonna hold Ace Hardware up as an organization that's doing a great job in this COVID time. And we respond from time to time to Ace Hardware because of individuals who are upset about something, and we appreciate their approach to everything. But when they have an individual who is upset about some behavior, we don't care what the behavior they're upset about, to be honest. When the manager or the employee says we would prefer this person no longer be in our store, then we're going to remove the individual. And I would prefer we do that than you, right? So know what you can and can't do. And the first thing is you get to control your space. It's your business, it's your location. And you have the right to control that. You can ask people to leave. You can ask us to show up and ask them to leave and things like that. So that's really important is knowing what you can and can't do. And then the second most important thing, and this is what we're going to spend a lot of time on, is communication. And de-escalation is really just about communication and the effectiveness of communication. I have spent many years teaching frontline communication to supervisors and command officers. I used to travel around the state teaching a 2-day class on communication. And I'll tell you, it's because communication's an easy thing to mess up, and it's an easy thing to get wrong. So we're going to talk a lot about communication.
And Cory, I'm going to jump in really quick. We are having some Zoom issues. That's what's going on.
Okay.
But people are able to call in. So everybody on my call in list for questions, go ahead and raise your hand. You'll see that on your phone. Some people might still be able to use the Q&A feature, but we'll use raise your hand. And then to ask your question, you'll need to unmute yourself on Zoom, which is *6, and then also make sure that your phone is unmuted. So we do have our call-in people here, so we will continue, but I just wanted to make sure that you all know that I see you and how to ask a question. All right, sorry for the interruption, Cory, go ahead.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right. Yeah, I honestly like a format where I can see people because it's more fun for me. But anyhow, we'll move on here. So let's talk about communication. And the first thing I want to talk about is emotion. And all of you think about how well you communicate when your emotions are high, right? Whether you're arguing with a significant other, whether you're trying to get your teenager to do something, we all know that's a challenge. Whether you are a teenager and trying to get your parents to do something, I don't know, right? But when emotions are high, communication is low. So I want you to remember that. Remember that the individual who has emotion is not communicating at their best, and that might be you. And it's obviously the other person, or we wouldn't be talking about de-escalation. And I don't know about any of you, but I have buttons, right? We all have buttons that we can push, that get pushed. And I know when the emotions are creeping in. And so whatever that reaction is, I actually have a physical reaction. I kind of refer to it as I feel the blood coming up behind my eyeballs. It's kind of how I talk about that. When I start feeling that blood coming up behind my eyeballs, I realize that my emotions are starting to take place, that I am starting to get emotional about this. And it's very easy to do. It's very easy when someone's yelling at you, when someone's doing something that needs to be de-escalated. It's very easy for your emotions to come into play. And that is if you recognize that, right, that's the first thing I want you to do. I want you to recognize I am getting emotional, and understand that emotions reduce the ability to communicate. You're going to say things, you're going to take your nonverbal communication will be terrible. All these things come into play, and the other person will see that and feed off that. And I've got, as we go through this, I'm going to talk about different strategies with different levels of people, but I want you to recognize it's the emotions are a challenge. And I have mine. I will share. I share this all the time. I spent 27 years policing in Fort Collins, college town, and I struggled with what I liked to call the um, the entitled prince or princess. And I struggled on the street with the person who said to me, my daddy, mommy, mother, brother is a lawyer. My right. And that was that for a while, that was one of my buttons. And I openly recognized that I would struggle with someone who would say, well, my father is a lawyer and blank. And that would cause me an emotional reaction, and I knew it was coming. So I had strategies around that, and I'll share with you some of those as we move on. Some of those strategies when you realize that there's emotional issues. So just remember, and I got about 75 other buttons, to be honest with you, but it is what it is, right? And if you recognize those buttons, then you can work toward kind of moving those emotions out of you. So I'm going to talk about three kinds of people that you will encounter that need to be de-escalated. And those three people are emotional people. So this is the person who's upset with you for some reason. And I am going to talk a little bit about masks, because that seems to make all of us angry in some way or another. Wear the mask, don't wear the mask. I have an opinion about the mask, all this kinds of things. It seems to be pivotal right now. We want to argue about masks. So that's an emotional person, a person who is upset about something, and they're just emotional. The next person, which not all of you get to encounter, is the person who is impaired by a substance. They're drunk, they're high, there's a substance in their system. And I know some of you, I know because we show up to some of these calls where people, even like now, there are people wandering around this community who are drunk, right? And so you have the emotional person, you have the person on a substance of some sort that's impaired their ability to communicate. And then some of you will encounter individuals who are suffering from a mental health issue. And those are really the three kinds of people that you would de-escalate with. So emotional, substance, mental health. And I will tell you, sometimes they're all together, right? Very often we know that if a person is suffering from a mental health issue, very often the ones we encounter also have a substance abuse problem, or there's some substance issues. It's just the reality of it. And sometimes when we then encounter this person who is high or intoxicated, has a mental health emergency, is now having an emotional issue. So all three of those can play together. I will tell you that all three of those have different strategies for approaching. And all three of those have different points where you should probably just get law enforcement involved, be perfectly frank. So let's start with emotional people. So remember, no good communication comes from emotion. And communication is very often a two-way street. So when someone is emotionally upset about something, if you know what you can and can't do, right? So let's take a mask mandate. I'm just going to use that as an example because I know all of you are facing that. You work in Ace Hardware. Ace Hardware has very specific mitigation protocols around how to mitigate COVID in their workplace. And one of those is a very strict mask mandate. So as an employee of Ace Hardware, it really doesn't matter, I'll be honest, whether you agree with it or not. That's your employer, or if you own Ace Hardware, if you're the management, right? That's your rules that you're living by. And so that's the rule, right? And so we have this mask mandate. And I know I was in and out of many businesses on Main Street this weekend and the weekend before. And I know all of you have got those mitigation protocols in place. So it's really irrelevant whether the person wants to wear a mask or not. You have these rules. That's the can and can't do, right? And so they're emotionally upset by two things. Either you're making me wear a mask in this business, or you're not upholding the mitigation protocols, and Billy is not wearing, or that gentleman over there, or that woman over there is not wearing a mask. We get both calls. We understand the frustration around both. So people will be emotional. Either you're making me wear a mask or you're not making other people wear a mask. Those are the kind of the two extremes. And as many of you probably know, people are very upset by this. So here you are in the middle, and here you are, what do I do? So you have this person who is emotionally upset. The strategy really is you not to get upset, and you to do what you can to assist them in reducing the emotional impact of this. And how do you do that? Right? How do I do that? Right? Some of that has to do with words. And I want to give you words that are helpful. I'm going to give you the words that aren't helpful first. Okay. First, you're being ridiculous. Those are not helpful words. You're being ridiculous. Stop shouting. Knock it off. I don't care what you think. All of those things, and you're usually saying those because you're upset, none of those things help. Okay. What helps are words like, I understand, please and thank you, right? So, sir, I'm going to ask you to please wear your mask in our business. And sir, if you cannot wear your mask in our business, I'm going to ask you to leave. Thank you. That's simple as that, right? Those are helpful words. Please, thank you. I'm going to work on your issue. And here's some people don't think this is communication, but here's a trick. Silence is golden. And the reason I say that is, sir, I'm going to need to ask you to wear a mask. And then just stop talking. People hate silence. Just stop talking. If they're not going to wear their mask, they're going to argue with you. You can look at them and say, I understand. Then I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And stop talking. And if they refuse to leave, then it's time to call the police. The reason I say that is because we'll show up, we'll ask you what's going on. You're going to tell us that we asked them nicely to not wear, to wear their mask, and they said they wouldn't, and they wouldn't leave. And I will tell you, our presence has a lot of impact. So those are simple pieces, right? There's that emotion. You don't add to it. You don't let you grow with it. And you just use simple words. Please, thank you. I'm going to work on your issue. I understand. I understand. I hear where you're coming from. Those kinds of things, right? It's not helpful from a business to say, hey, I'm on your side on this thing, but the boss has these rules. That's really not helpful. It undermines what you're trying to accomplish. It actually detracts from your power, and you have a certain level of power in this encounter. So, emotional person, use clear, unemotional, and polite language. It's as simple as that. Don't touch people. It's not worth it. If a person says, I'm not leaving, then go ahead and call us, and we'll show up and we'll ask them to leave. Generally, we do that. I would never encourage you to engage in any physical restraint of people. If they start calling you names and walk out and you get angry, just understand they're gone. Now, I'm going to give you some insight. Just remember, that you're going to live in their brain far longer than they're living in yours. So it's okay. It really actually sometimes they're going to walk out going, well, that person didn't get angry. And they're going to be mad about this. That's their problem, to be honest with you. So don't worry about that. The next one I'm going to talk about is somebody who's impaired. An impairment limits good communication, period. Now, some of you are probably old enough to drink. Many of you have probably been impaired at some point. And I'm just going to tell you, I know I don't make great decisions. I'm pretty sure none of us make great decisions, right? That's part of it, right? And so when an individual is impaired, or you can smell it on them, or you sense it, the ability to communicate with them is going to be diminished. And the thing I always like to say is it takes communication time to get in, to do something in the brain, and to come out. And the reason I say that is so in law enforcement, a lot of times we'll say, sorry, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, and I need you to do this. We give somebody multiple directions at once, and they're still focusing on, sir, I need you to, right? And that's what impairment does. Impairment slows down the ability for the brain to logically process communication. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what the impairment is, to be honest. It slows things down, right? So if the person's impaired, just bring it down a notch and give one direction at a time. Give one simple sentence at a time. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to wear your mask. And let that soak in. And you'll see it. You'll see it. Over the course of my career, I'm in my 33rd year in law enforcement. I've talked to plenty of drunk people. And you can see in their eyes as it rolls in, processes, and rolls out. And so I know at the ski area, so we respond up to the ski area quite a bit, that apparently for many people, the only way to ski is impaired. So we do encounter quite a number of individuals who are trying to show up, and the ski area does a great job of minimizing that. So, but you're going to get them in your businesses as well. We're going to get them on the street. So I encourage you to slow down, speak clearly. Now, don't speak slowly, because you don't want them to think you're mocking them. Just give them a simple direction, leave it at that, and come back. I will tell you, if a person's impaired, that ups the speed with which you should then just call law enforcement, because we have tools for that. So again, I'll say this again, call us, you're not going to bother us. We're here for you. So if they're impaired, it's sometimes you have to give them a little extra time to process, stay calm with them, and then if you're not getting compliance, call us and we'll help out. The third person is a mental health issue. Go ahead.
Hi, Cory. Just for my phone-in participants, if you want to raise your hand by the phone, it's *9. So *9 to raise your hand on the phone. Thanks. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah. This is such a challenging format. I like doing these things in person, to be honest with you. But it's kind of a challenge. So any questions would be great. And not even if you think I'm full of crap, you let me know too, because I'm happy to have those conversations and talk about specific situations as well. So let's talk about the person who has a mental health issue. And we encounter these individuals pretty regularly, and you may too. It's hard to say. There are a lot of people in this world that suffer different levels of mental health challenges, and I would tell you that COVID has exaggerated some of those for many people. And you may encounter that individual who has an issue. I know some of our local businesses are struggling now with a few of our individuals who both suffer from some mental health challenges as well as substance abuse challenges, because we're encountering them pretty much every day. And again, now you're dealing with something that is really unpredictable. and understand if you come at mental health from a point of empathy and compassion, some sympathy, but compassion is the route we come at it. It'll help you understand this individual a little bit better. But the point really is successful communication with this individual is very difficult. We send our police officers to a 40-hour, week-long intensive crisis intervention training where they role play with professional actors just to get the baseline of the most effective way to interact with someone in a mental health crisis. So the reason I say that is that if you have someone in your area of responsibility who is acting out, who it's clear that it's a mental health issue, and you're going to feel it, right? So I have this thing I call hinky bells, and hinky bells are when the hair on the back of your neck stands up, or your body is telling you this is different. This is dangerous. And we all have it. We're all mammals. We all have this sense. You have to trust that gut, I'll be honest. And so that's probably call law enforcement right away. And the reason I say that is because you're going to need the expertise of a law enforcement professional to really de-escalate the situation. And we work very hard on that. We are now, I don't know if you've seen recently, we now have a co-responder program where very often we get someone who is trained, a mental health professional, clinician, crisis clinician, to respond with us to help us. So we've been doing that now. We started a pilot program the end of last year, and beginning in January, we've gone full time with it 24/7, 365. So we're gonna engage that individual a lot. There are also individuals in this town who we know personally, who have working relationships with many of our police officers. Some of them we know which ones they like and which ones they don't. And we work with that individual. So I'm going to tell you right off the bat, de-escalation with a person who is suffering from a mental health crisis is really challenging. And it's just better off if you don't engage, to be honest. And the reason I say that is because it's real easy to exaggerate or make it worse. And so if you've got someone in your area of responsibility, give us a call. We'll show up and help out. Oftentimes, these individuals are also suffering from some substance abuse issue. So, when you exaggerate that, it gets pretty challenging. But again, the words with these individuals can be good and bad. Things like, how can I help, are good. Is there something I can help you with, are good. This person, and I understand is not necessarily helpful with a person suffering from a mental health issue. I understand, unless you truly are also in the same boat they are, they don't like that kind of statement. But calm down is not helpful. You're all worked up, you're acting crazy. Those are statements that you should not say to anybody, but are really not helpful in this area. So those are the three. I really want to just give you those three areas. And I want you to, one, recognize your buttons. Two, understand the three areas of people. And then let's talk about, we've talked a little bit about the words, and let's talk about strategies about how we help each other. First of all, if you are an owner or supervisor of a business, manager, something like that, make it clear to your employees what they can and cannot do. I think that's really important. When I was a young police officer, we had a business in town that would not prosecute shoplifters. and they made it very, very clear to the employees that now I think it was a silly policy, but this was the case. The employees, it was clear that you did not stop a shoplifter. You didn't call them in. You didn't try to apprehend them. You didn't do any of that stuff. Now that was very clear because we would show up to a call and they'd say, well, we're told we can't do that. I think that's fine. I don't agree with the policy, but that's really clear to the employees. And I would recommend you make that clear. And then watch each other, watch out for each other. So here's another strategy in de-escalation that we use here in law enforcement and that can be really handy. Now, it's not handy if you're the only employee in the business. It's not handy if you're all by yourself. But if you work with other people, approach this from the point of view of we're a team in solving these problems. And if you are watching somebody come in with a problem that needs to be de-escalated, and the person handling that is losing their mind, their eyes of the blood is, you can see it, you know this person, then it's okay to step in. It's okay to say, let me help you, because I'm not, you don't say because I'm not being real emotional right now, but you step in and you help your teammate get away from this emotional situation that that they're now working on, right? So it's intervening. So it's a duty to intervene, right? So we talk about this a lot in law enforcement, is as we all are humans, we're all impacted by what's going on around us. We're all upset about certain things. We all have challenges, and sometimes we're better at it than other times. I kind of call it, sometimes it's okay to be the rodeo clown to get the bull rider away from the bull. Sometimes that's okay. And that should be a culture that you develop, that we're a team, we're in this together, and I'm here to help. It should also be okay for you as you're dealing with someone and you feel that emotion starting to rise. You feel like you're going to say or do something unprofessional. You feel like you're no longer going to help in the de-escalation of what's going on. It's okay to say, can I have a moment? Go get somebody else and just say, I'm up to here with this individual. Can you assist me and help them? Right? It's okay to do that. And that has to be the culture that you build in your organization, that it's okay to walk away and say, and it's not like, I've had enough of you, mister, I'm going to go get somebody else who can put up with your crap. That's not what I'm talking about, because that's not helpful. It's okay to say, let me get somebody to assist, right? And just walk away. Let me get you a supervisor. It always cracks me up how much people resist this conversation with a supervisor, or how much supervisors say, you fix it before you. And my thing is that if someone says, let me talk to a supervisor, I get a supervisor, because I know as an employee, I'm doing the right things for the right reasons at the right time. And if they want to talk to a supervisor, that's great. Let them talk to a supervisor. Or I will do the same thing. Now, I'm the police chief, not a lot of supervisors above me. So when they're yelling at me, it's not like I'm going to go, well, let me just get the city manager for you. It'd be great. But I have said that. I have had a conversation with somebody and said, you and I don't seem to be seeing eye to eye. I'd be happy to have you talk to the city manager. It's okay. I don't fear that, because I know I'm having the right conversations at the right time with the right people. So I encourage you to watch out for each other, to help each other in de-escalation, and to use the rodeo clown analogy, right? This came to me. I'll tell you the story why I think about a rodeo clown. And I was watching, this is several years ago, and I was watching some body cam footage. It's probably 10 years ago, early on when I was in Fort Collins. And two officers, a sergeant and a lieutenant, were on a call, and they were dealing with a drunk individual, a woman. And the lieutenant has a hold of this woman, and she kicks him where boys don't want to be kicked. Full on horse kicks him right in the testicles. And you see his eyeballs roll back in his head. You see
he's getting really angry. And later he tells me he knew he had about 3 seconds to knock her unconscious, because that's what his brain was telling him to do, before the pain hit. It's exactly what he said. And you see the sergeant sees that, and he literally puts his arm between them, grabs her like you see those rodeo clowns push the bulls away, right? Gets right in between the two. And all you can hear him say is, I got it, I got it, I got it. Right? And I will tell you right there, that saved that lieutenant's job, because all his brain, his primal brain was telling him was, I have to respond physically, right? And he knows his intelligence brain says that's not the right thing to do, but his primitive brain was in working. So again, and then I said, I go, man, I told the sergeant, I said, you look just like a rodeo clown getting in between the bull and the rider. And that's kind of stuck with me, in that it's a great way to think about that, right? Is you're looking at this person who's investing a little more emotion in something than they should, and you're getting in the way, and you're getting them away from that. You're not only saving your business from some inappropriate or unprofessional response from an employee, you're also saving that employee from having to say they're sorry later or whatever. And it's really beneficial. And you build a culture where it's okay to say, I'm going to help you. Cory, you're later you might go back and go, man, you were kind of losing your mind there. And I might go, yep, I'm a human being. That's what happens. So I encourage you to utilize those strategies. So here's the thing. It's really easy. It's about communication, but it's really hard because it's about communication. I know that sounds weird, but de-escalation really is understanding that we're at conflict, and conflict is usually two people, right? It's usually about values, or it's about a lot of things, but interests, right? That's what conflict's all about, values and interests. But if you aren't in conflict, it's easier to then de-escalate this other person's conflict through good, proper communication, clear, subtle words, understanding what you're dealing with, what kind of person you're dealing with, and understanding, again, call us because we'll help you when you're dealing with individuals that you may never be able to help out, right? You may never have the tools or the skills to work with. And then keep an eye on each other and help each other out. So that's me talking a lot, because I can do that. But I'd love to hear questions or other comments.
Sure. So again, for our call-in listeners, it's going to be *9 to raise your hand. So if you have any questions, go ahead and hit *9 now. And Cory, I'm going to ask a few that I think maybe some of our listeners will have. Do you have any tips about body language when it comes to de-escalation?
Yeah, that's a good one. So, we all understand open and closed body language. That seems to be the really kind of the, I like, I'll be honest with you, I like hands down at my sides. I like hands in my pocket. I like for kind of an open yet professional. Now, cops, we don't put our hands in our pockets a lot, but things like this is not helpful, right? This is a closed, I'm not listening to you, right?
And that would be hands crossed over the chest for our call-in listeners.
They can't see me. Yeah. So if you're crossing your hands across your chest, now I can't do that. I got this new vest I'm wearing, by the way. If you can't put your hands, that's not helpful, but hands down at your sides, just down at your sides, hands on a counter. If you're standing behind a counter, put one hand in your pocket, the other on the counter, so open, not closed off is really beneficial. You will also see, that's a great point too. You'll watch people, if you're really watching, you'll see their shoulders, if they're really upset, their shoulders are up. And as they calm down, you'll see their shoulders drop a lot of times. And that can help you understand if you're really impacting them or not.
Awesome. Thanks, Cory. And then when you're saying people should call for law enforcement, should they call 911? Is there a different number they should call?
It depends, right? depends on the situation. If someone is, if it feels important, if it feels emergent, dial 911. It's the fastest way to get a hold of us. It's okay. You're not bothering the folks in the dispatch center. Dial 911, you'll get right to them. If it feels like it's non-emergent, then post the non-emergent number near the phone. I'm trying to remember what it is off the top of my head. I think it's 871-1144, but don't quote me on that. Post that number near the phone and use the non-emergent number. And that will also get to us right away. It goes to our so the 911 and the non-emergent goes to the exact same person. They'll just work through with you what it is. So you're not bothering us. And just remember, they're going to ask you questions that seem ridiculous. So if anybody's ever dialed for the police, the dispatch center, they ask a lot of crazy questions, and they'll ask who you are, what your name is, what's a callback phone number, what's going on, what is the person wearing, where are they now, all kinds of questions based on the situation. So just understand, it may not seem like they're helpful right off the bat, but also understand the person answering the phone generally is not the person sending law enforcement to you, right? They pass that information. If you dial 911, they're passing that off immediately and moving on to someone else.
All right, and it looks like we have a question from 3351. All right, caller, make sure you hit *6 to unmute yourself, unmute your phone, and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, this is Katie from Strings Music Festival. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm learning so much here. And I'm wondering if you could speak to some techniques for some maybe well-meaning bystanders who may also try and help you, or maybe not, maybe they agree with the person. But what happens when the situation becomes, instead of a one-on-one, maybe a one-on-3 or something else, regardless of their position?
Katie, that is an awesome question, because you obviously have got experience where people join in. And I would tell you that as people join in, that probably escalates where you might need us to assist. I think it's okay to set the boundaries to then maybe, so one of the things I like to do is I will look at the person who I'm having conflict with, and there'll be other people around them. And I always ask them what their first name is. Right. So in law enforcement, whenever we ask you your name, you think we're writing it down, which we are. You ask our names, we ask names. Well, I always go, what is your first name? Because I want to be able to say, okay, Katie, you tell me it's Katie. A lot of times they go, well, I don't want to tell you. I says, okay, I'll remove that person from the group. Sometimes I'll say, Katie, can we step over here and have a conversation? And I'll ask the other people to stay out. Right. Could you just please let Katie and I work on this? Right. They're simple, but hard to do. So remember, it's your space, you're in charge, you're in control. So, a lot of times what happens is, and I've said this, right? So this is what not to do. I've had the person standing there and I've looked at them and I go, are you their lawyer? And they'll be like, well, no. I says, yeah, then they don't need your advice. Not helpful. I'll just tell you that right off the bat, right? That's not what to do. But you can say, sometimes too, though, you can say, are you related to this person? Because sometimes that person can be helpful, right? But if it's ganging up, if it's starting to get out of control, one, that might signal to need law enforcement. And two, it's okay to say, what's your name? It's Katie. Okay, Katie, can we talk about this over here, please? Remove them from the group. And if you have that space to do that. Those are really the best. And if they won't, if it's you just then disengage. So that's one of the things I talked about in de-escalate that I didn't really talk about in de-escalation. Sometimes it's okay to just stop engaging entirely, right? If it starts to get out of hand, because I sense from Katie, from your question, that you've experienced this to a certain degree, and it can feel like it's gaining speed to get out of control. And you're absolutely correct. We teach law enforcement officers to maintain control and to not let that happen. So in your case, the same thing, you just have less influence over that group, but it's okay to say, come on over here. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks for your question, Katie. Other questions from the group? Again, you're going to hit *9 to raise your hand. All right. Cory, I'm not seeing any additional questions. Do you have any last advice you want to impart on us on de-escalation?
The only thing, again, and this isn't really advice, I want you all to know that the Steamboat Springs Police Department is here for you. That that we're happy to come in and visit with you if things feel uncomfortable. We're happy. We're just here for you. We're part of your community. I live, work, and play here. My officers mostly play here, but we're here for you. I do see a couple hands coming up now.
Got a couple hands coming up. So 0774, you're up. Make sure to hit *6, unmute yourself, and unmute your phone, and go ahead.
Hi, this is Jenny from the Ptarmigan Inn. Thank you so much for this information. You gave some really good strategies for helping your teammates if there are multiple people present. Are there some strategies for when somebody's alone and has to pick up that phone to call the police?
Yeah, so that's when you're by yourself, right? So those are challenging. I agree. Those are really challenging things. One of the things I don't think I would suggest you not do. So this is a mixed suggestion, but I don't suggest you look at the person and say, I'm going to go call the police. And the reason being, some people use that as a threat, hoping that there'll be some level of cooperation on the other person's part. And my experience really is that escalates the problem. So it's okay to have strategies on how to call someone to call the police for you, how to text someone to, we have text to 911 here as well. So if you're talking to somebody, you can look at them and go, I need to send a text, right? I need to do this, I need to do that. And you can actually text our dispatch center through 911, which is a great service that not a lot of people use. It's okay to say, I need to go in the back room and check on something, dial 911, those kinds of things, depending on your level of comfort. When you're by yourself, I think your strategy's got to be a little bit different. And I think it's okay to, if you have resources, to bring someone to you, to have someone come to you. If you're, on the desk and it's 2:00 in the morning and it's a problem, then that's not going to be as easy, but then just remove yourself. Take some strategies you should always have strategies of what's a safe space in my work environment, and pay attention to pay attention to your hinky bells, right? Pay attention to that, because if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not. And we're mammals. We understand, our bodies are telling us things. So pay attention to those. They're not great. This isn't great advice. Being by yourself can be kind of spooky in the world. We train the police officers, if you think you need another person, go get another person. Now they're already awake. They're already working, right? So I'd use a few of those strategies. I'd have somebody I can go to. I'd have a place I can go to. I would think maybe about texting 911 if I needed to, or I'd say, I'm going back into this room, but let me look into your problem. And then you can call 911 or the non-emergency number, whichever you think is most appropriate.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next question is from 9210. *6 to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, Chief, this is Justin Keys from Barley. Thanks for putting this on. I just wanted to, for all of us out here who serve alcohol, it's good. I would like to touch on just in general, we all do our best to not overserve and to not serve people who don't need it, but occasionally one slips through the cracks and there might be a situation where that person who's had too much to drink is now causing a disturbance for bartenders and servers. can you touch on why they should still not be ashamed to call the police and not be worried to get in trouble and those sorts of things?
Yeah, that's great, Justin. I appreciate that question because we go on that a lot. I'm just going to say it straight up. We get madder, right? We hold against you more if you have a problem in your bar and you don't call, right? Because as you know, your liquor license requires you to maintain your premise, than we do if you do call, right? So there is this fallacy that calls of service to a business somehow are negative when it's time to renew your liquor license. That's not necessarily true. I review every single liquor license application and renewal. That's not really the case. And so I'm with you, Justin. I appreciate as the person, the owner there talking about, give us a call because we don't want anybody to get hurt. We want your business to run great. We love the barley, by the way. We want you guys to have a good business, and call us because we're really on your side in solving the problem. Over service happens. Individuals. It's like me. You give me 2 mules, and I'm probably overserved, right? But there's other people that have different levels. So. I encourage your staff to always give us a call. And what would be great is preemptive calls. So if you feel like things are happening, it's okay to call the non-emergency number and say, hey, can you guys just do a walkthrough? Right? Can you guys just come in and kind of wander around? Then it's really, we call it a business check. It's not even like a disturbance or something like that. And the officers would love to hear that. And they'll do a walkthrough for you. So encourage your staff to continue to do that. And I know you guys do a great job there at the Barley as it is, but obviously serving alcohol is its own challenge from time to time.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank you.
Justin. Thanks, Chief. Final questions from anybody on the phone? *9 to raise your hand. All right, I am seeing none. Chief Christensen, thank you so much for putting this on for us. I do apologize for our technical difficulties. I believe it was a Zoom issue. But this recording will be available on our website. We'll send it out to the list. If you have questions for Chief Christensen that you didn't get to ask, please email them to Cecilia@steamboatchamber.com. And we will send that list over and hopefully we can get some answers for you. So thank you so much for joining us, Chief Christensen. Thank you so much. This was really helpful and informative.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good day.
All right, everybody have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.